Welcome to Nintendo is Awful, part 628. Nintendo shuts down Steam launch of Dolphin Emulator. On May 27th, the development team behind Wii and GameCube emulator Dolphin announced a massive roadblock. Nintendo's legal system was moving to prevent the software from launching on Steam. While the Dolphin team is investigating its options, the project is currently indefinitely postponed. Here's the full quote from their blog post. "It is with much disappointment that we have to announce that the Dolphin on Steam release has been indefinitely postponed. We were notified by Valve that Nintendo has issued a cease and desist citing the DMCA against Dolphin Steam page, and have removed Dolphin from Steam until the matter is settled. We are currently investigating our options and will have a more in-depth response in the near future. We appreciate your patience in the meantime." Later in the article, it's clarified that Valve didn't actually receive a DMCA takedown, but rather a warning of one, should they allow Dolphin on their site. I've seen a lot of people bring up the fact that Dolphin comes with Nintendo's copyrighted code, which is actually an illegal thing to do, so technically Nintendo does actually have a case in this instance. However, I still oppose this because Nintendo is so oblivious as to why people want to emulate their old games in the first place. You don't fucking preserve most of your old games. Most games that aren't the original Mario or the original Zelda or Mario 64 or Ocarina of Time are just left to fucking rot on old hardware, and people want a convenient way to play these old games that they have fond memories of from when they were kids. Because what's the alternative to emulation when it comes to a game that Nintendo can't be fucked to provide? Buying the console that game came out on, buying a copy of that game, and depending on the game, you could be spending $100+ on even a used copy of said game. Now for me, at least for the GameCube, I like collecting and playing on original hardware. It just feels special to me, but I understand that I'm in the minority. Most people don't want to buy 20-plus-year-old hardware, buy a copy of a game they really want to play, potentially having to pay $100+ for a copy of said game, when they could just play that game through the convenience of an emulator on their computer. The GameCube had a fantastic library of games, and so many of those games, unless it's Mario Sunshine on that stupid collection that came out a few years ago, or OG Resident Evil 4, and that's not even a Nintendo game, are just left to rot on ancient hardware. The Metroid Prime remaster that came out a few months ago was a smash hit that proved that people will gladly play old games on your hardware if you gave them the opportunity to. I understand you don't want to remake or remaster all of your classic GameCube games, nor do I expect you to do that. All I'm saying is, at least just re-release a lot of these classic games so they can finally be accessible to a wider audience. Port the Wii U remakes of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Give people Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door, Metroid Prime 2, F-Zero, the original Animal Crossing, Double Dash, and all these other fucking great games that are just sitting there, rotting on old hardware, that you do absolutely fucking nothing with. There are so many people out there who would love to play these old games on the Switch, either because they have fond memories of these games, or they weren't able to play these games back when they came out. There is still a huge and flourishing community surrounding Smash Bros. Melee, a game that came out on the GameCube back in 2001 and has never seen a re-release. Maybe instead of issuing out cease and desist notices to Melee tournaments because they used emulators to play the game and used hacks, perhaps re-release the game on the Switch and maybe even host your own tournaments? I guarantee you the Melee players would be all over that, because it would be you finally acknowledging this community in a positive way, and you finally embracing the more serious and competitive players of Smash. And Dolphin doesn't just emulate GameCube games, it also emulates Wii games, because the Wii and the GameCube have very similar architecture. And to an extent, the Wii has the same problem the GameCube does, whereas Mario Galaxy 2, or Metroid Prime 3, or Super Paper Mario, or all these other Wii games that people would love to play on modern hardware. If you leave these games to rot on ancient hardware, people are going to be more inclined to use emulators to play these games, because what's more convenient, emulating these games or potentially spending hundreds of dollars on eBay? And since these are old consoles, they're more prone to failure. A lot of people are having their GameCubes and Wiis die on them. Knock on wood, my GameCube is perfectly fine. But a lot of people can't say the same thing, and maybe they don't have a retro game store near them, and don't want to deal with a shady online retailer for good reason. I mean, look at the DK Oldies drama that went on for a few months. Or maybe they just don't feel like buying another old console. Obviously, if you provided GameCube and Wii games on the Switch, that wouldn't mean every single person who was playing on Dolphin previously would just migrate to playing these games on the Switch. After all, the Switch wouldn't allow you to play GameCube games in 4K like Dolphin does. But I am sure there is a significant amount of people on the fence who would rather play on the Switch because it would be more accessible and convenient than installing an emulator and making sure all the settings are right and all that other shit. If you provide no legal alternative besides dump hundreds of dollars buying old consoles and games on eBay, people are going to seek out not so legal means to play these old games. Your bottom line is not affected whatsoever from people using Dolphin. Unless you plan on bringing GameCube and Wii games to your online service, you're not making any money off of these old games anymore. And if people do buy copies of these old games, they're buying it secondhand, not from you. But anyways, to the Dolphin team, good fucking luck fighting this, because Nintendo is so draconian with their intellectual property, and very severe with their punishments, and I don't really have much faith that you're going to win this, considering you actually did technically break the law. But even still, this is a massive waste of time on Nintendo's part, because again, you're not affecting their bottom line at all, and they provide no legal alternative to play a lot of their old games, so no shit, people are going to turn to emulation. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.